more seconds because there's some people that are a bit stuck in the waiting room. But basically, today's lesson is like intro to programming, and we're gonna like hop in. We're gonna be mainly dealing with Python, to be more specific. Um, but first off, we have some like small stuff that we need to cover beforehand, namely the Google Classroom. We have a bit revised meeting schedule the next couple of weeks, and then setting up like our VS Code and Python environment. And then we'll be teaching print statements, variables, and the input function. And just like as a heads up, if we're going too fast or like something was a bit too confusing, you guys can just like use the chat and message us, or you guys can unmute. But you just make sure you guys let us know so we can like stop and like slow down a bit. If you guys haven't already, go to classroom.google.com and then join a class and enter our code, which is NIIRQHW. And make sure you're on your school account. That's very important. So it should be like your lunch number at stu.wvusd.org. Um, or paste the link in the chat. But if you click on that link, you should also be taken like immediately to our classroom page, assuming you're on your school account. Or you can just enter the link the regular way. So I'll give some time for you guys to do that. But we're going to be mainly posting stuff on the Google Classroom from now on because the remind, not everybody has access to it. And there's the email is also not like the best to put too many like announcements and stuff regularly. Basically, if you click the link, you should be taken to a screen that looks something like this. However, I'm on my school account, right? I mean, my personal account. So I have to switch to my school account and then you should be able to be taken to our classroom. And that's basically it. If you guys like need the slide later, you guys can just let us know. And then next is our schedule. So as you guys probably know, Thanksgiving break's coming up as well as winter break. Basically, we're gonna have a revised schedule. So normally we meet every other week. So today, the 10th, we have a regular meeting. Next week, which is the 17th, we do not have a meeting. And on the 24th, when we would normally have a meeting, we're not gonna have a meeting because that's Thanksgiving week. And then on December 1st, we're gonna have a meeting, and December 15th will be our last meeting before winter break. And then the next time we'll see you guys will probably be in the new year. So this is just kind of a heads up. We'll be sending reminders as the weeks go on, but basically we're gonna have like a 2-week break and then we'll go back to our regular 1 week every other week. And then lastly is VS Code and Python. So if you guys did see our emails and remind, you guys hopefully have VS Code and Python installed. Just roughly, can you guys like put in the chat or like raise your hands or something how if you have like VS Code and Python already set up, just so we can kind of like get a gauge. If you guys want to use a different code editor, that's also totally fine as long as you're fluent with it and you know how to use it. But basically, to set up VS Code and Python, what you want to do is you can follow our article that we posted. So this is a link over here, and you can just follow all of this, and it's pretty simple. But we're not going to do it now because it's going to take a bit of time. So instead, if you do not have it set up, which is also totally fine, we're going to use this link, which is basically an online Python code editor. So all you need to do is just type all of the instructions in here, then click the run button, and then the stuff will be output at the bottom. It's going to be a bit different, but you'll still be able to follow along. And then the link for that is, I sent the link in the chat. So that's the link to get to this website. So if you guys don't have VS Code and Python set up, you guys want to navigate to that. But basically, that's all of like the little introductory stuff now. So we're basically gonna hop straight into like programming now. So if you guys do have VS Code downloaded, you want to just go to like your start menu and then type in VS Code or Visual Studio Code, and hopefully it'll pop up as like an app. And then when you run the app the first time, assuming this is the first time you're opening it, you might see something like this. It has like a welcome screen, but basically this little pane on the left here is called your Explorer. We're gonna click on that and then you should basically see this screen. And then we wanna open a folder. So to open a folder, we'll hit the open folder button and then it'll let us choose which folder, blah, blah. So I'm just gonna create a new folder. You guys can create a new one or use an old one or whatever. Title it whatever you want, and then make sure you select the folder and click select folder. So hopefully you're like shown this screen, and then over here it shows whatever your folder name is. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Basically, once you get to this screen, all we want to do is create a new file. So there's many ways. This button here, that creates a new file. So if we click that, it has this little entry box, and we're going to type in lesson1.py. So make sure your formatting is like identical to mine. So notice that we have a .py at the very end. That indicates that this is a Python file. And if you have everything set up, you should see like this little Python icon or this little blue icon. And you might get some pop-ups here. You can probably ignore them. If one of your pop-ups says to install some sort of extension, you should. So to check to see if you have the extension installed, we're gonna navigate to our extensions. So it's this little like grid on the left. And then when it says search extensions in marketplace, we're gonna type in Python. And then the very first one that pops up, it's by Microsoft. Hopefully you guys have this installed. If you don't, you can just click the green install button and it'll install really quickly. Hopefully that was all review, especially if you already have this all set up. But now we're gonna just start talking about like Python. So we're gonna start pretty slow and pretty simple. And the first thing we're gonna be talking about is like comments. So to write a comment in Python, we're just gonna put a hashtag and then you can type whatever you want. So for example, hashtag this is a comment. And then basically you see it's green and it means it's a comment. What it means is that the program does not read this code. Normally this is just human words and it's made, and we use comments to like help distinguish our code and to make it more easily to be read by different people. So that's pretty useful. And then the next thing we have is a print statement. So in Python, to print out something into the console or to output something onto whatever you're using, we just type print and then we want to type parentheses. And then inside the parentheses, we're going to put quotations and then we're just going to put hello. So hopefully you guys are at this screen, right? It says print, parentheses, hello. And then now to save and run our code, we're going to need to save our code first. So you see it says one unsaved and it has this little white dot up here. So to save our code, we can just do Control S. So as you can see, Control S save, and then it saves our code. Or you could go like File and Save here. They both work. And then to run our code, the easiest way is going to be hit this little button in the top right. It says Run Code. Or you could do Control Alt N. They both work. But once we click the button, hopefully you guys have some sort of pop-up here. If this part may look a bit different than yours, that's totally fine. It should be unique to each person. But hopefully you guys get the output that says hello. So if anyone's confused or they're stuck or they're receiving some sort of error, just let me know right now. If you guys are on the online version, the web version, you guys should have like the same thing. So if you guys are on this screen and it already has it like pre-made for you. If you click run, you should see a hello world here. It's basically the same thing. So now, like a little activity example, we want you guys to print out your name. So we're not going to tell you guys how. You guys should be able to. Just remember to replace what's inside the parentheses of what you want to be outputted. So for example, you would replace hello with what your name is, and then save your code and run your code, and hopefully you get the output of hello and then your name. So for me, this is gonna look like print parentheses and then quotation marks and then my name, right? My name is Eric Wayne. You guys will probably have a different name, so you put something different. And remember to save our file, we do Control S, and then to run our code, we click the run button. And then it says hello and then Eric Wayne, which is what we outputted. So hopefully that makes sense. If that didn't, you guys can message us on mute. But now Lucas is going to continue teaching. Wait, I see one question. Do we do that in the same folder? Yeah, so you want to create your file in the same folder if that's what you're asking. So this is the folder I created. And then as you can see underneath the folder, it says lesson1.py. So like to show you a more visual like interpretation, if I open my file explorer and go to my downloads and then go to this folder that I just created, inside I'll see a file called lesson1.py. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so I'm gonna be continuing where Eric left off. I don't really need this because this is what he went over, so I'm just gonna put it in comments. So next we're gonna talk about variables. So variables are basically a way to store things, and then you can come back to them later. So for example, let's just start with an integer variable. So I can name the variable anything. You can use any character, but you can't use spaces. So for example, I could say a equals 0. And then if I were to say like print a, then this would just print out 0. You can see here. Because and you can the good thing about variables is you can access it anytime. So let's say you have like really long code, but later you can still access a and it would still print out 0 for you. So there's a couple of things you could do with integer variables. So you can add, subtract, multiply, divide with them. So for example, we could say a is equal to a plus 1. So what this does is it replaces the value of a by the number that's 1 greater than it. So if I printed it again, then it would print 1 because 0 plus 1 is 1. And this is just a shortcut. You can write a plus equals 1 instead. So this would be really useful if you wanted to count. So we'll learn how we can actually loop this later, but if I wanted to count from 0, 1, 2, 3, we would just repeat this code. So it's the same for like subtracting, multiplying as well. Okay, so I want you guys to just print the first 5 even numbers. So you want to start with and just name a variable. I'm gonna name it even, and then so basically I want you to print 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But use variables. I don't want you to just put print 2, print 4, print 6. So I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Okay. So you should have done something like print even, and then even plus equals 2. And then you do this like 5 times basically. Oh, it's not letting you create a new folder. I'm not even that good at VS Code, but I think you
All right,
can.
here.
Uh,
Just for now, because like, don't want you guys to
yeah.
fall too behind with like creating the folder and stuff. Um, let's
Use the
just
website.
yeah, let's just use the website. Um, so just like go on the website and you should be able to follow along, do the same exact thing. And we can sort out the folder stuff a bit later because there might be some different things that like factors that are causing us issues basically.
Okay. Um. So I'm just gonna put this in like comments as well, because I don't really want to delete it. So next, let's talk about um. Yeah, let's just move on to inputs. So in input, what you're doing is you basically taking something from the user. So like you're interacting with it. So right now, all we're doing is we're printing out stuff. All that is output. For example, like if you're playing a game, if it's only output, that's like watching a movie. But if you have input, that means you're interacting. So that would actually be a game. So the statement for this is input with two parentheses. So what this does is it just takes an input. So that doesn't do anything right now. But if I put like a variable, let's just say a is equal to input, what this does is it will allow me to type in something and then it's going to store that in a. So let's just try this. If I took an input and I just printed it. So here I could type hello, it would print out hello because it stores in hello and a and then it prints that. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take two numbers, so in two separate lines, and then I want you to print the product, so basically multiply them. So you would have two lines of input basically. I would say I would say like num1. By the way, you can use these underscores as like replacement to spaces, and they're really helpful for like labeling. So I would take two inputs, and then I want you to multiply them. Okay. So hopefully you got a chance to try that. So what you would do is you take an input here, and then you take another input here, and then you can just print out the product. You can add an extra step. Hold on, I'll just show it. So if you say something like product equals num1 times num2, this would be just an extra step. If you do want to store the product for later, then you could do this. But what you could do instead, if you could just print this. So this would be like the basic first step for a calculator. This would be the multiplying function for a calculator. So I just type in two numbers, so 3 and 5. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I have to say that they're integers. I think that's why. So this is what this does. it converts it to an integer, because right now what this error means is I'm trying to it tells me I'm trying to multiply strings. That's why. So hopefully this works now. All right, there we go. So 4, 5, and then I get 20. Okay, so the difference between integers and string is that integer is basically a number. A string could be really any character. It is just, for example, in the beginning, we're printing out names, right? All that is string. So it has letters. So people think about string like it is just words and letters, but a number can also be a string. But the problem is when a number is a string, you can no longer do like operations with it. For example, if I print like this is a fine. This won't give me an error. But if I try to add this, like this string to another number, that wouldn't work. That would give me the error that I just had. So that's the big difference between number and string. A lot of people think string is just letters only, but string can be numbers as well. Okay, so that's the string value type. So we have a couple of different variables, right? We have integer, we have string, and then there's one more I'm gonna go over today. It's called a Boolean. So a Boolean is just it's one or two things. It is either true or false. So I'll write that as a comment. So Boolean is true or false. Um, so if you want to make a Boolean character, all you do is just A equals true or false, or false. So there's not much we could do with this for now. But when we get into if statements later, this will be really helpful because um, some of those statements depend on whether it's true or false. So just know that Boolean is another type, and it will be useful later. Okay. Um, I think we'll do one more exercise. So I want you to, okay. So this would be just a review of everything. So I want you to take an input. So first one needs to be a string. So I'm gonna write take string input, and then so basically I want you to take in your name. You're gonna type in your name, and then you're gonna type in your age, and then it's gonna print like a complete sentence saying my name is so and so and my age is so and so. So let me just teach you how you can combine things in a print statement. So if you want to print multiple things, you could just use commas. So it would look something like this. Sorry. So use commas. And then I would have my name here. That would be the variable you need to input. So it's gonna give me an error because I don't have the variable yet. So it should look something like this. But then I don't have the name and age variables yet. That's what you need to do. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute for that as well. Okay, yeah, I don't think anyone says this. Let me just change it. Yeah, no one says my age is. Okay. Um, so I'll get started on doing this. So it's just pretty simple. You take in a name input. So by default it's a string, but if you want to be like extra safe, you can also put like a string. But just know if you're taking an input, it's gonna be a string by default. And then like age equals and it's not a default integer, so you have to put do int. Okay, hopefully this works. So I'm gonna write Lucas and I'm 14. So my name is Lucas and I'm 14 years old. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Um, if not, I'm gonna hand it back to Eric.
Yeah, okay. So first we understand that we're going like pretty quickly, right? Because it's like a 35-minute lesson and we're going pretty fast. But basically, we're gonna try to like help out and we've created like a kind of like a cheat sheet. So if you navigate to this link, which I should put it in the chat also. Um, basically we've created a Python cheat sheet and it basically comes some starter like information that we covered today, and you guys can take a look at it later and it should be able to help you guys out, especially like when you guys are like thinking what we exactly learned today. So for example, it talks about the print statement and variables, more specifically what an integer is, a string and a boolean, and etc. But also last thing to note is the best way to like learn is also to practice. Like just listening to us talk and like going over the steps is also pretty good, but it's also best if you guys can get some hands on also with it. So right now we have like 5 more minutes, so does anyone like have any questions related to anything? So like for those of you, I know some of us may have had trouble with like opening folders or stuff like that, or just any questions in general. So I think if like nobody has any questions, I think we can just like end it 5 minutes early or whatever. If you guys like do want to stay, we can help you guys out a bit more individually. If you have some more like specific questions, whatever, that's also fine. But basically, if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Um, in 2 weeks, which should be on the 1st of December. So happy Thanksgiving too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job, guys.
Thanks, Ms. Okak. So for those of you guys who are like still here, do you guys have any more like specific questions?
I came a little late. Can you show me how to like like start the folder thingy?
Oh yeah. First, are you in the Google Classroom? Sure, I forgot to say that. I should say.
Putting
Oh,
in the chat or something.
yeah. Here, I'll put in the link in the chat. I should have pasted Google Classroom again. Okay. Just navigate to that link. Log in with your school account. I'll explain the folders right now. So basically, the theme of folders, right? So I'm gonna open a new window. So assuming you have VS Code downloaded already, when you open it and you don't have anything open, like for the first time, this is what like the screen you should be looking at roughly. And then we open our file explorer by clicking this button. And then it shows that we have not opened a folder yet. So to open a folder, we just click the open folder button. And then if you have a folder already created, for example, I already do, I can just click on this and click select folder. Otherwise, I could create a new folder, right? We right click, click new folder, and then name it whatever we want, and we can create that folder. Or you just select the original folder you already have created. And then once you select folder, it should be open. If, for example, this folder is brand new and like this file isn't here, to create a new file, what we want to do is just navigate to hover over the little title text. And then there's this button here that says new file, or we can do file, new file, control N. They both work. When we click that, it'll give us the option to put the name. And then we're just going to put like lesson2.py. Just put like test.py or whatever you want and make sure it ends in .py, and that's it.
Is it the same on a Mac? I'm on a Mac.